Welcome to my January 2025 real estate market update. Now, if you put your buying plans on hold because you were waiting for home prices to crash or hoping that mortgage rates were going to plummet, then I've got some news for you. 2025 might not be the year that you're hoping for. And for sellers out there, if you're banking on big price gains, this year's market could keep you on your toes. But don't worry, I'm going to break it all down for you and share exactly what these trends mean if you're planning on buying or selling a home this year. Now, in this update, we'll start by taking a look at the big picture. What's happening across the national housing market as we kick off 2025. Then I'm going to zoom in on Frisco to see how our local market stacks up. And then finally, I'll wrap up with some key takeaways to help you make the most of the opportunities that are out there this year. So whether you're thinking of buying, selling, or just want to stay informed, there's a lot to unpack. So let's dive in. Hi, this is Andrew with the Andrew Smith team, eXp Realty here in Frisco, Texas, with my faithful companion and assistant, Bailey, right behind me here on the chair. So 2024 was a year that finally saw inventory levels build. So the supply of homes started to build. And that helped keep prices at bay, so to speak, coupled with the fact that demand went down a bit and inventory grew. And we should expect to see some of the same in 2025, at least with regards to inventory levels. And what will happen with that is we're also expecting to see home sales, so total home sales, to increase in 2025 over 2024, which was by far the lowest year with regards to total home sales than we have seen in quite some time. Now, while the inventory growth is going to provide more options for buyers out there, it also means that if you are on the selling side, there's a few things that you're going to have to do a little bit different, and with regards to how your home shows and with regards to how you price it. And we'll get into that just a little bit later. But with that, let's take a look at what the experts are saying that home price appreciation is likely to do in the coming year. All right, so what we're looking at right here is the expert price forecast for 2025, and this was just updated on January 7th. And I think the important thing to point out here, although there is a wide spread, if you look here, you've got Morgan Stanley over here showing they're expecting prices to decline 2% this year, all the way over here to the AEI Housing Center, who are forecasting a 5.5% increase this year, who are the most optimistic overall. But when you look at the bulk of these forecasts, I mean, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Redfin, Home Price Expectation Survey, Realtor.com, Fannie Mae, Housing Wire, etc. So there's a lot of different forecasting entities here. They're all fairly modest with regards to the price appreciation that they're looking for. So, on average is what they're looking for. So the big takeaway with regards to this graph is the fact that things are returning to normal. We're not expecting to see wild declines in prices, but we're also not expecting to see massive increases in prices like we saw just a couple of years ago. So now let's shift gears to one of the most important things driving the market today, and that's mortgage rates. So when we look at mortgage rates, I think some context and some historical context is key here. And I think at this point in time, especially after you look at the past year, the vast majority of people out there, home buyers out there, have come to the realization that we're not going back to 3 or 4% anytime soon, if ever. And I think that's an important factor because we're starting to see activity pick up. We're starting to see that mortgage applications are slowly improving. They're very susceptible to the little bounces we see in mortgage rates all the time. But when you look at where the current rate is as of this recording at about 6.91%, how does that stack up? And if you go back to the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, as shown on this chart, all the way back here in the 70s, 12.7% in the 80s, 8.12 in the 90s. We're basically settling in to where we were for most of the 2000s. That seems to be right about where we are right now, or the direction that we should be heading. The fact that we've been spoiled with rates that averaged 4.09% in the 2010s, we're just not going to see anymore, in my opinion. Now, I know mortgage rates are very, very difficult to predict, so I'm not going to say, oh, this is never going to happen or this is absolutely going to happen, but it's not likely to happen based on everything that we know now. So where do the experts think mortgage rates are going to be as we head through 2025? Let's take a look. Once again, much like the home price expectations, you see here that the mortgage rate forecasts are actually pretty similar between all of the major entities forecasting. So you've got the National Association of Home Builders here being the most optimistic at 6.12%, all the way up to Redfin that are predicting 6.8%. So not vastly different from where we are right now, with the average of all of these coming out at 6.36%. So the bottom line, there's basically a consensus that rates are going to settle in somewhere between 6 and 6.5%. And it looks as though that is going to be the new normal, that we're not going to see anything vastly lower or vastly higher than that unless something happens that is unforeseen right now. So again, rates between 6 and 6.5% looks as though where things are going to be. Now, what's really going to be interesting here is to see what the new home builders are going to do, because they're the ones that have aggressively attacked mortgage rates in order to keep sales moving. They've been aggressively doing rate buy downs and lowering that to help with the financing costs, as that actually, when it comes to affordability, moves the needle a lot more for a buyer than a price reduction does. So, you may have seen some of the videos before, and I've explained that, roughly a 1% reduction in a mortgage rate is equivalent to about a 10% reduction in price. So in many cases, the builders have been offering rate buy downs of a couple of percent, so 2%. So that's about the same as getting a 20% reduction on the price of the house. So quick pro tip there for buyers, that's something that you might want to look at, whether you're buying or even if you're buying a resale home. Rather than trying to negotiate the price way down, you might want to look at it and ask for a little bit more money in concessions and buy your rate down, as that's going to impact your affordability much more than just a price reduction would. So with that in mind, taking a look at what's happening nationally, let's turn our attention to Frisco and see what's happening here locally. All right, so what we're looking at here is my weekly market report. Now, this one is specifically for Frisco, but just so this information is available for every single city, every single zip code in the entire country. If you were just to scroll to the top of this report and go ahead right here and put the city or zip code in that you're most interested in, you can get this exact same information. And I've got a link to this directly below in the description. So first and foremost, you often hear it's a seller's market or it's a buyer's market. What exactly does that mean? Well, in essence, all it's referring to is, do market conditions favor the buyer or favor the seller? And on this market action index that you see right here, it tells you that it compares what's going on with regards to pace of sales with regards to the inventory to let you know who is favored, or what the conditions favor, I should say, in the given market. Anything below a 30 is considered a buyer's market. Anything above a 30 is considered a seller's market. So right now in Frisco, we're running right at around 35. So there's a slight seller's advantage here compared to buyers. But perspective, you go back to 2021, and this was pegged at 100. As we know, when multiple offers and all of that was taking place, this was pegged at 100. So this right here is just a great way to gauge what's going on in the market overall. Now, as I scroll down, the first thing I want to look at here is pricing. And it's important to note that if you saw some of the reports I did last year, I'd said pricing in Frisco for 2024 was relatively flat. And it was. If we look at the sales data month to month to month, you're going to get these jagged spikes like that when we look at sales price, because it varies depend what mix of homes sold that month. When we look here, the median list price, which is what we're looking at, it kind of allows us to see pricing trends over time. Right now in Frisco, homes are selling for about 96.5% of their original list price. That is information derived directly from the multiple listing service tracking all of the sales. So when you keep that in mind, it kind of gives you an idea of where things are trending. We can kind of look now right here. If we were to go back to January of 2024, so a year ago, January 12th, we had a average list price of 708, 727 on the 7-day. If we track that out to right now, you can see we've got 7041 on the 90-day average and 755 on the 7-day average. So prices as of right now compared to last year are just a little bit higher, not vastly higher, but they're a little bit higher. What's interesting here is that if I was to look just at the 7-day data, the pricing is trending up just slightly as we start the year. Now, how that continues going forward really depends upon how many homes come to market. Now, I can tell you from what I'm seeing so far, it looks as though we are going to continue to see some inventory building, because I've actually already had more calls from potential sellers so far this year. And I've also seen a few more signs appear relative to what we saw last year. Now, if I go and we look at that in more detail, look at this with the inventory, here's where we are. So you can see this is where we were a year ago, January of 2024. Here's where we are now. So do we have more inventory? Yeah. There was 293 90-day average a year ago, and right now 569. So we've definitely got more inventory now than we had a year ago. But the one thing you can see is that inventory right now in Frisco is still declining. If you go back here, we don't really start to see, that's what I'm looking for. So this last year was a little bit late, end of January into the middle of February, even March, before inventory really started jumping up, actually beginning of March. That's a little bit later than we normally see. Personally, I think we're going to see that move up just a little bit quicker this year, but it's going to be interesting to see. If I was to go back further, you would see that if we went back into 2019, we're still a little short of what we saw pre-pandemic. But like I said, I think this number on inventory in Frisco is going to turn up a little bit quicker this year, just based on what I'm seeing right now. So now that we've covered all of the data, what exactly does it mean and how does it impact you? Well, if you're considering buying in 2025, it's important to note that while mortgage rates are stabilizing, waiting for a dramatic drop in rates might not be the best strategy, especially as inventory grows, because as that inventory grows, sellers will become more negotiable, or be more negotiable, I should say. Now, in the current market, that presents some opportunities. For a buyer, you can get more favorable terms. As I already mentioned, new construction has attacked that. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of quick move-in new construction homes, as they offer a tremendous opportunity for buyers. But even not on the quick move-in homes, most of the builders I've been talking to have indicated that the interest rate reductions or concessions that they have been giving are going to continue. They want to make sure that sales don't slow down. So expect the builders to remain aggressive on that front. Likewise, I do think you can get some of these same type of deals from sellers on resale homes at the moment. Now, if you've got questions on that, don't forget to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to talk that through in more detail. Also, if rates do decline later this year, if they fall a little bit more than expected, then competition's only going to heat up. You've got a lot of buyers sitting on the sideline right now, and if those buyers come back into the market, even though inventory is expected to pick up, you're going to find that sellers will more than likely become less negotiable, and the builders may start taking away more of those incentives, especially as rates right around that 6% become more of the norm. Now, if we flip this around, if you're considering selling your home this year, what exactly does it mean? Well, as inventory picks up, you're going to have to be very realistic about your pricing. You're not going to be able to price it at the very top and expect that buyers are just going to become flooding to your front door. Buyers have more options now than they've had in the past few years as more homes become available. Preparation is going to be key. You're going to have to take the time to stand out in a more competitive market. So that not only means pricing effectively, it also means staging the home effectively and setting the home up to maximize the potential sales price. Buyers don't want to come in and have to make a bunch of repairs or a bunch of updates. Those are things you should consider doing up front. Buyers are going to be looking for the absolute best value overall, and doing these things can be the difference between getting an offer and not getting an offer. All that being said, though, it's not doom and gloom for sellers. It's basically sellers. We've been spoiled over the past few years, and things now are returning to normal. But what I'm seeing is that homes that are priced correctly and that are marketed correctly are still selling, even in this evolving market. Now, whether you're planning to buy or sell or just want to understand what the options are in today's market, now is the time to start that conversation. And I'd love to help you navigate it and put the plan and the strategy in place that's best for your unique situation. What I encourage you to do is go ahead and click this QR code right now, and that's going to take you directly to my calendar. There is also a link in the description to that calendar, and you can go ahead and schedule a free 30-minute consultation, either by phone or by Zoom, and we can go over exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve, and I can share some ideas to help put those plans in place for you. There's never any cost or obligation whatsoever. It's just an opportunity for us to look at what's possible for you in 2025. Well, I want to thank you for watching today, and hopefully you gained some valuable insights. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more insights and updates as I put these videos out all the time throughout the year. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to reach out, and make sure you don't go anywhere, because I know you're going to enjoy this video coming up next.